Do you want me to read any more? Because it's long. Okay. I woke up with a strange sensation in my chest, fear, excitement, like a roller coaster. The feeling went to my head and I became very dizzy before throwing up on the ground next to me. Typical reaction to the nightmare. It would only get worse. I had done LSD that night, along with other things, and the trip had been horrible. My mother was there, tortured and beaten, reaching out to me for help, the creature within me always smiling down at her with a cruel hatred I always imagined being in her eyes. It sounded like she was laughing as she hissed in my ear, and it caused my whole body to shiver. My stomach heaved again. She had no name back then, and sometimes I wonder if I had given her some sort of identity. Think of her as a human instead of a creature. I would have forgiven her sooner, or maybe never. Though I saw and heard things that were not really there, I knew what was true and what wasn't. No drug could take me that far out of reality, as much as I would have liked for it to. My powers were too great to let my mind be fooled that much. The rain picked up as I tripped and stumbled through the thick woods. Some of the leaves were such a bright orange and yellow that they glowed in the bright moonlight until the clouds blocked it out. The rain had picked up even more by the time I made it to the road. I smiled and squinted up at it. I loved the rain, especially once I was finished. It was almost like this guy was trying to wash away my sins. I appreciated the effort. A darkness that was not really there swirled around me and tried to pull at my limbs. I stared at it blankly. Inside, demons danced inside and sang while yanking chains that bound my mother down. She called out to me again. I tried not to show emotion, but I knew it didn't make a difference. They saw the pain there like it was written plainly on my face. I looked away and tried to ignore them. They would be gone soon enough. Even in the darkness and the rain, the suburbs didn't look dangerous. Perfectly mowed lawns, rounded trees, and clean, safe-looking houses. Maybe it was just because I was the one looking at it. I tipped over garbage cans and kicked around the trash as I walked down the empty streets. This was my second stop. David Keflin, 36 years old, 319 Maryland Circle, divorced with one child. Rachel, 9 years old, brown hair and green eyes, smelled like bubblegum. I had killed her not 4 hours ago in her small apartment on the far side of town. I would have bet money that her mother still lay cozy in her bed, dreaming about her latest boyfriend, oblivious to the corpse that lay in the next room. I took her faster than I normally took the children, right through the heart. There was brief fear, muffled scream, and then she went right back to sleep. I watched her lay there for a moment, watched the pictures fade to black. She looked just like her father, same pale olive skin and dark hair, same green eyes. Looking back, though, I see the biggest difference. She was beautiful and had been full of life. He was old and tired. His house was large and empty, like he was still moving in. I slipped in the back door using the key I found under the plastic, unnatural-looking rock. The heat inside shocked me, and it carried smells of alcohol and sweat that immediately made my nose wrinkle up. I left the door open to let in a cool draft. David was asleep on the couch, the television throwing a strange blue glow across his face, and he looked peaceful. I hated him for it. His daughter lay dead in her bed while he was here sleeping perfectly in front of the TV when he should have been there to protect her, to prevent any bad from happening to her, like my father never did. At the very least, if he really loved her as much as the pictures on the wall made it seem, he should have felt the pain even from 1,000 miles away. I moved slowly, taking little steps that I would imagine Rachel taking, so I wouldn't wake him. I wanted to surprise him. That was all the fun. I let my skin crawl as I shifted my form to look like little Rachel. Everything matched but my eyes. They were still the bright blue of my father's. They were the only thing about myself I could not change. She would kill him, not me. The knife looked too big in her small hands. "Daddy," she whispered in her small voice. "Daddy, wake up." He stirred slightly, then his eyes slowly opened and focused on her. "Rachel, honey, what are you doing here?" He said in a groggy voice. He looked down at the knife in our hands and back up at her. Confusion distorted his face, then turned to terror as we looked down on him. "Honey, put the knife down. Where did you get that?" I looked at the blade. It was heavy and cold in our hands, and I wanted to laugh at him. We appeared small and fragile, and he was still scared. He was right to be. I began to lift it up like I was going to hand it to him, an innocent look on my face. But when he reached out for it, I stuck it into his throat, deep, and I twisted it. I smiled inside. His eyes were wide as he choked on the floor, and I stared at him with the same innocent expression. He tried to talk, but blood poured out, and I laughed at him and quickly covered my mouth so not to be too loud. His almost inhumanly wide eyes shot behind me before they rolled back in his head, and he fell on the floor. I stared at him a moment to make sure he wasn't going to get up, then glanced over my shoulder to see what he was looking at in his last seconds. I was hoping a smiling picture of Rachel. First, I was shocked I didn't know he was there. I didn't hear him or smell him. At the very least, I should have sensed him there, but I didn't. He was staring down at me with nearly black eyes that almost scared me. If I had cared about my life, he would have. He didn't move or speak at first, just looked at me and David like he was admiring, a smile just in the corner of his mouth. He was a breed. I could tell not just because of his eyes, but from his size. Around 8 feet tall and so wide with muscle. I wondered how he made it through the doorway, especially without a sound. His smile sent a chill down my spine. It was rare that I saw any other breeds in this state. People were, I guess you could say, racist towards us. Breeds with physical features of the gene tended to pass right through without lingering too long. He motioned his head, signaling me to follow. I stared at him, and then took a step forward, intrigued. "Don't worry, I don't bite," he whispered in a deep, powerful voice that had a slight accent I couldn't place. His brows pulled together, and I shifted back into my normal form. Shoulder-length black hair, clear young face, and seductive curves of a near-adult woman. His smile grew and he looked me over. "Well, not unless you want me to." My eyes narrowed and I glared. He admired my beauty for a moment, then he slid out the door effortlessly and silently. I stared at him in confusion for a moment before following. We walked in silence out of the sleeping neighborhood through the woods, passing over roads and near empty highway. I had to nearly run to keep up with him. The sun was well into the sky before he finally began to slow and look through the woods for our destination. I suppose I should have asked where we were going, but I didn't really care that much. It was something new, and that was what intrigued me. I'm done now.
Are you bored? Yes, you are.